Hi YouTube, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can find us on the web, caltoncutlery.com. This video is going to be a continuation of my grinding tips series. The reason I just call it tips and not tips and tricks is because there's not really much of any tricks involved in grinding good blades. All it is repetition, being used to your grinder, and just learning how to do it. Anyway, so the first video was on stance, and in that video I went over having a good solid stance, the relationship between you and your grinder, the distance where your stance should be, and I went over if you're having problems with your grinds, or even if you're not, try to get just a little bit closer to your grinder. A lot of times that helps. Don't be afraid of it. Don't try to grind from way out here. Get right up in there and work with your grinder, and how a good stance will help. This video is going to be on balance. In any sport, I remember back when I was taking my boy, we took karate a long time ago. It seemed like the sensei took forever just going over stance and balance and positioning and all that kind of stuff. Pretty much like he had to teach us how to walk again before he'd teach us anything else. And it's not very fun sometimes to go over those basics over and over and over again, but I've found with all the different learning how to do stuff that the basics are more important than anything else. If you have the basics down, the rest of it just naturally follows. So anyway, so we're going to go over balance. Now there's 4 things that you need to be thinking about as far as balance when you step up to this grinder. You'll start off, when you start grinding, when you're just learning how, you'll start off thinking about every single one of them every time you step up to that grinder. Then after a while you'll get used to it, and then you won't think about those all the time. It'll happen automatically until you start having problems. Then you go back to the basics, and a lot of times you'll find that you're missing one of those things, and if you fix that, then your grinding comes back. So anyway, so balance. There's four things that we need to discuss on balance when you're grinding. The first is the balance of your machine. Okay, when you build your machine or buy one and set it up, whatever, it needs to have its own balance. Okay, so you want to set it up to where it's stable. Now this particular setup right here, you guys have probably all seen it before, but I guess I can show it to you again. It's just built on a a 2x4 stand, just wood, and then there's a 1/4 or 3/8 inch thick steel plate that goes across the top, and then both grinders are bolted to that plate. So you've got a pretty good amount of weight here in the whole grinder setup, to balance everything out. Let's see. Right there is where I think I want you. Okay, so it's got good solid weight, but even at that, the grinders still move a little bit. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but you can see when I push into it, it does move some. I don't think I've ever worked on a grinder that was completely rock steady, whereas if you pushed on the thing that it wouldn't move. But it does need to be, it does need to resist most of the force that you put into it to grind the blade. If you're putting a lot of force into the belt to grind the blade, you might want to check, but more than likely your belt is dull. You need to throw it away, get a new one, and then you won't have to push as hard. So anyway, so you've got the balance of the machine. The next thing is your body, how you balance it. Okay, now, we're pretty much all of us used to standing up. I do grind. Now, this is mostly for guys that stand up to grind. I tried sitting down to grind once, and I didn't really care for it. And I've tried having like a bar stool behind me, sitting on that while I was grinding, and I didn't really care for that either. I like to feel the ground when I'm working. So what you want is the balance of your body goes back to the stance video, and you want a nice, good, solid stance but you also want it to be relaxed and fluid at the same time. And I'll go into that on the next video. Pretty basically, when you're grinding a knife, nothing stays still at the same time. Everything's always moving. You just got to coordinate everything moving together all at the same time. So anyway, you want a good solid stance, comfortable, solid yet relaxed, and easy to move back and forth. Okay? Your hips will move much more smoothly than what your hands will. So a lot of times when I'm grinding, we'll just grab a blade. I've actually got to grind some blades here in a little bit, so I figured while I had it set up I'd go ahead and shoot a video. But if you're holding the blade like this, you can move your hands. Yeah, sure, and that works, and sometimes you have to do that. But if you lock everything in, which I'll show that in the next video, you lock everything in and then move your whole body, moving from your hips, then for me that's a lot smoother and a lot easier way to get good grinds. Yeah. The third thing that you need balance with, and it's something you can't see, it's in your head, it's your mind. If you're not balanced, when you step up to this grinder, the chances of you making good grinds are going to be slim to none. If you're fighting with your wife, or if you're, it's tax time and you're worried about, the IRS, or, the kid got bad grades and you keep telling him to get good grades and, you're upset with him over that, any of those sorts of things. If you're frustrated about anything, that's usually when you're going to start rushing things, making mistakes, and you're not balanced, and so you won't transmit that into your movements when you're making a knife. Okay? So if you're fighting with your wife, go fishing or something. Knife making is dangerous enough as it is. You don't need to be bringing that unbalance into your shop and trying to work like that. Same way with drugs, alcohol, all that kind of stuff. I know a lot of guys like drinking beer while they're working in the shop. If that's what they like to do, okay, great. Not me. That's for after all the work is done. And the fourth thing about balance is your hands. Okay, so we've got our stance in place. Our stance is balanced, our machine is fairly balanced, our mind's in the right mindset to be grinding. Now our hands, when you start off grinding, whether you're a very beginning knife grinder, or if you've ground a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand blades, your hands always need a little bit to get back into the rhythm and to find their balance. Okay, so like today, I'm going to be grinding these blades right here. I like to do everything in batches. So the last time I was working on this batch of knives, I took them all down to, actually I don't really remember. There's some stainless ones, there's a 52-100 Knife Chef in here, some 1095. So this is kind of the leftovers of several different batches. So I need to go ahead and get these finished up. They're all rough ground, pretty close to, they're all ready to start or to begin finish grinding them. But you notice these two right here, they need rough ground yet. And the reason that I do it this way is, even though all these just need their finishes put on, touch up the grinds, put their finishes on and everything, I'll start off going ahead and rough grinding these blades. Now the reason for that is because it'll take your hands and your body and your mind and everything a little bit of time to get used to grinding again. Now, let's say I ground a whole bunch of knives yesterday and I was coming back to them today, I still might just grab a paring knife and go ahead and grind that paring knife before I start putting, finish grinding and putting base finishes on everything. Because, and it might only take 2 or 3 minutes for your hands to find their balance again, but it does take that little bit. And if you're rough grinding a blade, there's plenty of opportunities to screw it up and then fix it, and then screw it up again and then fix it again while you come down until you're ready to start finish grinding. So I decided to make this one is a little bit shorter. Try to make the videos a little bit shorter so I don't get so long-winded and everything. But that's balance in a nutshell. Remember, there's the 4 things. You've got your grinder balance. You've got your body balance, which goes hand in hand with your stance. You've got to get your mind balanced, no fighting with the wife right before you go grinding, and then getting your hands balanced, getting them warmed up and ready to get to work for the day. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you on the next one.